Hey guys, quick tutorial video for you here. I've been getting a lot of comments on my Instagram, at White Shark Gaming Studios, in case you're interested, on how I do my moss effects on my brick for my buildings. I used to just use green washes from Citadel and some of my homemade stuff, but recently I've been using the moss effects from Dirty Down, which are these guys. Not a sponsored ad, I pay for this with my own money. But this is what we're going to do in this video. This was a piece I built originally intended to show you people how I use the jigs I created for my foam cutter. Painted this ages ago, probably about 2 years ago now, and I've just added the green stuff to it to show you how good of a moss effect you can get on some stone. So we're just going to use the Dirty Down moss effects, a brush and some water. That's it, and you get this really cool effect. You can be as liberal with it or as sparing with it as you like. So I will hand you over to future me and we'll get this painted up. Cheers guys. Right, so as the title says, this is how I use the Dirty Down moss paint. This is the Dirty Down moss paint. This is water soluble paint, and this is the high matte version. It's semi-permanent because obviously it's water soluble. This is my signal tower. This came about, the full tower came about as a drawing by Tommy Soul, and he challenged me to build it, so I built it. This is in a separate video. I'm just showing you how to do the moss on this one. But I didn't record the moss for this video because I was just getting carried away, so this will be linked in that video anyway. So I have a separate piece that I built a while ago. That I think is, this was a showpiece just to show what can be done with some of the jigs I made. As you see, it's all made out of foam. This will be a perfect piece for me to show you exactly how I use the moss paint. If you look carefully, you can see some hints of green already on there, but we're going to go over all of those and we're going to do a high weather with the moss and see what we can achieve. We are literally just going to use the moss, some dirty water because I can't be bothered to get any clean, and my brush. That's it. So with the moss and any of the other Dirty Down stuff, as I've got the verdigris here as well, and there is a rust available in a few more. I've used the rust a lot, but I ran out and I didn't see the need to buy any more because I wasn't painting any more orcs. So, but you need to shake them, and this one doesn't have the ball loose. This one does. So you need to shake it until the ball is loose, and you need to shake it a lot. If you don't, you'll get a very different effect, and it's not as good because you're loosening up all of the pigment. I think there's definitely some flock in the bottom, some really thin flock. Or once it dries, you'll see. So you need to shake it for a good 2 to 3 minutes. I've already shaken this off camera, so I'm just agitating the bottom a bit more. But you can see the balls in the bottom. I mean, you can't, I can. So what I'm going to do is open it up, and I'm going to literally go in. This is one of my older brushes, so I'm not too worried about getting anything in the ferrule or anything. Just dip straight in, and we go to town. Now you're going to have to use a bit of logic of where you think the moss would gather, and it's going to be in the corners and on the edges of the brick. So just go down here for now. You can be as thick as you want with it. It's not a problem at all. The thicker the better with this stuff, to be honest with you. And then you just need to go onto it like this. Get a good amount on there. I'm going to build it up on these bottom bricks quite a lot. This is going to be like an old weathered dungeon wall kind of thing. So we'll go around the edges here as well. But the greatest build up will always be where the highest concentration of water is. So that's going to be where the bricks meet the tile. Obviously the tiles aren't there, so we have to use our imagination. But that's not difficult. We build a wall. So I'm going to paint a bit more of this with just one layer, and I'll come back to you in a second. There we are. Excuse me. Back after just one coat. It's a liberal coat. There's a lot of liberal coating down the bottom, and I just drag the brush up and scatter it wherever it needs to be. This stuff dries incredibly quick anyway, but we can speed it up with the use of a hairdryer, which is what I did a little bit for this, being careful not to get it too hot because it is made of foam and a bit of balsa. You will now, well, what we need to do now is just get some water on our brush, not too much, and we can feather out the edges. So I've got a damp brush. I'm literally just gonna pull it out, but pull it out to get the green over the brick and then push it back in. So you can see there are some flocking particles in there, and you can push those into the crevices and the cracks to get the concentration of moss in there. Now, the best way to figure out where to go is to go and take a look at some old buildings where moss has built up, take some reference pictures and stuff. I've done a lot of digging on the internet and had a look at some to get reference, but I've also painted quite a few buildings with some moss effects on them anyway. So it's mainly just crevices, and anywhere you think the building would be damp or could be damp with rain. And I'm talking these models would be in like dungeons and medieval times, so there's no central heating or, you know, insulation of the house at all, so it's always going to be damp and mouldy and horrible. So yeah, that build up for it in a wet town and stuff would be really good. Now, there's an interesting effect here happening on this bottom brick. Because I'm pulling the paint away from the top, you're getting a nice highlight on the top there, but it's still staying green. And we push the rest of it down, and you can do that with all of the bricks here. As you can see, just pushing it down, exposing the top of the brick. It's still tinged green, which means there's still moss there, but it's giving a nice highlight to the edge of the brick, giving a more realistic look. So this is just one after the first application. And once this is dry, we can add another application deeper down so you can have a thicker moss. So we'll just go in here as well. I'm doing this in real time just to show you how easy and simple this effect is. I don't need to speed this up. I'm just going to wash my brush a little bit and bring back some more damp. Push it into the corners and here as well. So you see, that's just that one side done there. And another thing we're going to do in a second, you can see I've added some to the door. It's not a great deal, but I'm just going to go ahead and feather all this out and show you what it looks like afterwards, and then we'll do a second application. But we can also water down the moss paint, so we can do a nice thin run in all of these joins of the wood here. And you can see it goes bright green, which is really, really nice. So I'll come back to you shortly, and you'll see that I've feathered it all out. Bear with me. So I'm halfway through the feathering out with the moist brush. I took the liberty of drying this side fully with a hairdryer, just with the water, obviously. And you can see the contrast between the two. So this one is obviously just the first layer, and this one is the first layer with the feathering of the wet brush. You get a much nicer effect with this. You get different tones of green coming through. The thinner the green, the brighter it is, and the thicker, the darker it is. So you can see we've weathered it down on these bricks as we were doing. You see the nice edge of the brick at the top there where the water would have settled. And this one is just everywhere. Now, this is an effect that is definitely seen in nature, but it's incredibly overgrown. And this is just a nice damp, dank dungeon kind of thing. I've also feathered out the top here, and we'll add in another layer in. I just wanted to show you the complete contrast between the two sides. So with the feathered water effect that we did, and this is just leaving it as is, which is also a really good effect because you can build it up again and again and again. But I prefer watering mine down and feathering it out. So I'll finish it off and I'll bring it back. There we go. So this is what can be achieved with just one layer. So just one layer of the dirty down moss and some water, a moist brush weathering and flicking out to the sides. So I'm quite pleased with that. Again, this is just a piece that has sat on my side for ages and it has no use for terrain or anything. It's just a nice showpiece. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a secondary layer. I'm going to leave that quite thick, but we're going to stipple this one on towards the bottom of each brick. So I'm going to get a nice build up of the moss on a palette. So I could just keep dipping my brush in. And I'm going to just show you here. I'm just going to stipple it down the bottom. A nice build up. Towards the bottom of the bricks if you can. Build it up in the corners, because that's where the moss would stick. And again, we'll let this dry, and you'll see the contrast between the two. The thicker it gets, the darker it gets, which is quite a nice effect. And then afterwards, we're going to water some down and add some into the recesses of the brick, between the courses and the wood as well. So I'll just add this in. You see it's going in nicely there. I'll bring it back when the whole thing's done and then we'll weather it out again. Right, so that's the second layer all done. Not feathered out yet, I'll do that now. I took the liberty of feathering out the door because I forgot, and I've added a second layer to the door as well, which we'll also take a look at. So we're not gonna feather it out towards the edges now. We're gonna feather the second layer in towards the bottom of the brick. Again, there are no right or wrong ways of doing this. This is just the way I do it on my models. So just showing you how I do it. You can do it however you like, because moss doesn't grow how you want it to. It grows where it bloody wants to. There we go. I'm just feathering it ever so slightly down. Gives a really deep look on the bottom. You can also get a toothbrush and dip some in this, and then with a glove on your hand flick it on. That would make some really cool spackles of moss on the rock. I'd love a yellow one of these. Dirty Down, if you're listening. I hasten to add, I paid for this, so this is not a sponsored ad. I just think the stuff's really good, so it needs a shout out. But yeah, I'd love a yellow one of these for liching and stuff. That'd be fantastic. I'd use that all the time. Specifically on slate roofs and stuff, that'd be wonderful. So let's just feather this all down. You don't need to be as accurate as with this layer because you've already got the base layer down. Yes, it's lovely stuff. I fell in love with this stuff when I painted my orcs. I used to have a huge orc army, and I painted the majority of the army with the rust paint. I bought loads of it. I discovered it at Salou one year. Yeah, and I just fell in love with it. I didn't use it properly then. I didn't really know how to use it. I just slapped it on and let it dry. I wish I'd have feathered it out because the army would have looked so much better if I'd have done that. But no, it looked okay anyway. The good thing about that army was there was like 24,000 points and it was all cohesive and all painted. It was featured in White Dwarf. So yeah, this is the secondary look. I think it looks really good at the moment. We're going to dry this off and I'm going to go with the watered down one. So I'll dry this off and I'll bring you back in a sec. Right, that's all dry. It gives a really nice effect. We've left it a little bit thicker at the top around there as well. So what I'm going to do now is use some of the watered down. So we just dip in here, put it on our palette. I'm literally just going to mix water in. Now this stuff dries incredibly quick, so only use a little bit on your palette because it will dry quickly. What we're going to do is going to try and add it in to the recesses so it gives a nice, really thin wash. I'll paint some of these bricks as well so it looks like it's been added in. Down the edges there. And you could also do the bottom of these to give it a very wet look, and we'll feather that out afterwards as if the water's just sat there for a while. Again, build it up in the recesses where you think the water would naturally flow. And there, see? And we'll feather that out afterwards. Get some water so it dries really quick. So, it's in here. Over here. So this video, apart from the bits where I cut and bring you back, those have literally been about 3 or 4 minutes long. So you're kind of getting the whole time frame of how long it takes to do something like this. You don't want to hear me waffle on for an extra 5 or 6 minutes, I know that. Rub that on there like that. There we go. I think we're going to finish drying this and feather the other bits out. Let's do a couple more bricks up here. So maybe here. There'll be a build-up of water coming down here, which will be feeding the moss on the flat bit here. We can feather that out when it's dry. Right, I'll go and dry this and I'll bring you back, one sec. There we go, nice and dry. You can see where we had the really thinned down moss. It's just left a really nice green tinge, and we can subtly make that disappear, again with just the application of a wet brush. So if you're making terrain for a table and you don't want it like this, you don't need to do any of this. Just slap a bit on and away you go. But I like to paint for show if I can. I can't paint miniatures anymore because my eyesight's shot, but I can paint stuff like this. So yeah, it's not too bad. Where's that down? You can go, again, as I said, you can go as much or as little as you want on this. Little gives, obviously, new moss growth, slightly younger building. More and more and more, with the addition of some flock, some green flock in this, would be extra green flock rather, it does contain it, would give an even larger build-up of moss and look like a really ancient door. But there we go. Right, let me just dry this off. We're nearly done. There we go, all finished. You can go even further if you want to. You can add some mortar in between the bricks and then tinge that as well. But I think for just a quick tutorial to show you how I use the dirty down moss, I think this works great. It looks really good. It's incredibly realistic, and it gives the tones of the brick a bit more as well. But yeah, I hope you like the video. If you do, please comment, like and subscribe and all that jazz, and I'll see you in the next one. I hope to bring a few more of these shorter tutorials out for you as well. Thanks very much, guys.